Unfortunately, there is still a lot that we just don't understand about mental health. Psychologists like me, we cannot necessarily explain with precision exactly why any particular person suffers from something like depression or anxiety. The general consensus among my field is that even though the symptoms of these conditions are very similar from one person to the next, the causes of these symptoms may vary tremendously from one person to the next, and in most cases are probably multivariate, meaning it's relatively rare that a person would struggle with chronic depression or chronic anxiety because of one thing in their life or because of one problem. And the vast majority of the time, it is probably a series of overlapping struggles or circumstances that causes a person's mental health to go consistently downhill for a long period of time. One of the causes of depression and anxiety that has received a lot of attention lately through research and just general literature is the state of a person's living space. It's often said that the state of your living space is a reflection of the state of your mind. And I think this is a very true statement. It's pretty well understood that various mental health conditions can impact the state of someone's living environment. The most extreme example of this would be hoarding, which is considered to be an anxiety disorder when a person struggles to discard almost any object regardless of lack of value. But maybe you've seen TikToks about things like depression nests or ADHD piles or just these general states of disarray that our living situations tend to fall into when we're in a tough spot mentally. It's only natural that the state of your environment would decline when your mental health declines. You have less motivation, less energy, less joy, less executive functioning. And these are all things you need to take care of your space and take care of your stuff. All of these symptoms make it harder to do that. But the relationship between your living space and your mental health is not one directional. It's not just your mental health causes your living space to get worse. It is bidirectional, meaning these two things feed off of each other. Your mental health both impacts your living space and is impacted by your living space. And when the state of your living space is in decline, this bidirectional relationship makes everything worse. That harsh inner critic you have that fuels feelings of depression and anxiety has more and more evidence for its hateful beliefs about you. It tells you you're worthless, you're lazy, you're stupid, and there's evidence of that all around you because your home is a freaking mess and you can't find anything and there's garbage everywhere. And so it feels like the proof of all these negative thoughts is right there in front of you. It also means that changing how you care for your environment can be a therapeutic tool that you can use to significantly improve your mental health. And in both my personal and professional experience, it's one of the most powerful and most underutilized tools for better managing our symptoms. I could cite so many studies on this topic. It's a huge interest of mine. I want to briefly review 3 of them, and like just a couple sentences each, just so you can understand what I'm talking about. The first was a study on the environments, the living spaces of children and their cognitive development growing up. And this study found a direct correlation between cluttered, poorly managed living spaces and impaired brain development in children, leading to memory issues, behavioral challenges, and learning difficulties. So their brains apparently did not grow as well in chaotic living environments. The second, this is kind of the funnier one. There was a study in 2 different environments on people rating the relationship security of celebrity couples. So the people in this study were shown pictures of famous celebrity couples and were basically asked to rate how likely they thought it would be that this couple would separate. One group of people sat at a sturdy chair, and the other group of people sat at a chair that had a loose leg, so it was a little bit wobbly. There was a statistically significant difference in the projections of people in the wobbly chair versus the sturdy chair in whether or not the couples would break up or not. They were shown the same groups of people, and the people who sat in the wobbly chair felt that the couples were more likely to break up than the people who sat in the stable chair. Interesting example of how your living environment can affect your view of the world, other people, and your projections about the future. The third was a study on adult women, and I don't think it just happened to be women. I don't believe this would vary by gender for any reason. But it found that adult women who lived in more cluttered living spaces had more chronic activation of their fight or flight response, which has correlations with anxiety, PTSD, somatic symptoms. Again, I could go on and on about this. I think you guys get the point. Cluttered, disorganized, messy living spaces are bad for our brains, bad for our mood, bad for our executive functioning, just bad for us in general. There are not many quick fixes in the world of mental health, but changing the variables of the environment that you spend most of your time in can have an immediate and dramatic impact on your mental health. This is one of the few things that can really move the needle quickly for you. If you implement some of the ideas I'm going to share with you today, you could legitimately start to feel better by the end of the day. And you don't even have to talk about your relationship with your mom to get there. So hopefully I've sold you on the idea that taking better care of your living space has the potential to significantly improve your mental health. I also, of course, understand this is much easier said than done, and all of the symptoms you are struggling with are almost certainly working against you in your endeavors to take better care of your space. Like, I'm sure you have thought of this before. I'm sure you have told yourself, I should take better care of my space, and nothing has happened for one of a million reasons. So what I'm going to do with the rest of our time today is tell you some strategies that I have personally used and that I have encouraged my therapy clients to use that have actually helped facilitate proactive, positive changes in the living environments of people who struggle with depression and anxiety. The first is to use time-based task and goal setting rather than achievement-based task and goal setting. What this means is when we think about stuff we want to do, we usually think of it in terms of tasks. Like, I want to organize the guest bedroom. That's a task-based goal. When you set a goal in your mind, or in the moment when you say, I want to go do this thing right now, your brain basically runs in almost an instantaneous diagnostic check. And it says, okay, you want to clean and organize the guest bedroom. Let's check how much energy you have, how much attention you have, how much executive functioning you have. Let's see if we feel up to doing that right now. And so the bigger the task or goal that you are setting for yourself, the more likely, especially when you're struggling with your mental health, that your brain will say, no, sorry, we're not up for that right now. We're not going to be able to, there's no point in even starting that task because I guarantee you we're not going to finish it today. So no, there's going to be no movement on that. Often the things, especially when things have been spiraling out of control for a while, we probably feel pretty overwhelmed by our living spaces, right? And so the idea of doing something where you have to start to finish a particular task, it tends to be really overwhelming. If you use time-based goals instead and say, I'm going to try to spend 10 minutes on the guest bedroom. Again, your brain is going to run that same diagnostic check. And 10 minutes, I'm not saying it should be 10 minutes. That's a random example I came up with. Do shorter time frames. Because what that does is it decreases the cost of entry and it makes your brain more likely to say, I'm not feeling super great today, but 10 minutes, yeah, I got 10 minutes in me. Let's go get started on it. It's probably not going to even make a dent in it, but sure. Now, it's going to go one of two ways. You may not even notice a difference in the state of your environment after 10 minutes. But if you can do that 10 minutes every day, or even most days, you don't have to be a perfectionist about it. If you can do it most days, you will start to see progress. Maybe not today, but probably in a week, right? Because that's 70 minutes. I mean, you should be able to get something visibly accomplished in 70 minutes. The other thing you might find is, especially when we're depressed in particular, more so depression than anxiety for this one, our brains tend to underestimate when they run that diagnostic check. They underestimate our resources. They're very pessimistic because that's part of what depression is, right? And so it's kind of like having a gas tank meter that tells you it's on empty when there's still 3 gallons left in the tank. It's it's trying to protect you, but it's very pessimistic and conservative about its projections, and as a result, it makes you think you can't do things that you actually probably can. So you might get 10 minutes in and be like, I got another 10 minutes in me. I could keep doing this. I'm not going to do it for an hour maybe, but I could do this a little more. So if you shift from task-based goals to time-based goals, I think you'll be able to get started on this process much more quickly. The second thing you can do to take better care of your living space and improve your mental health as a result of it is to have less stuff. Now, I know this one is not a quick fix because the act of going through your possessions and deciding what to keep and what to get rid of and where to keep the stuff you're going to keep and where to take the stuff you're going to get rid of, it can be a lot, especially if you have a lot of stuff. But in my opinion, it is well worth the investment because everything you own does not only take up space in your home or in your room or whatever your living environment is, it also takes up space in your mind. You're probably familiar with the concept of mental load, which is basically like your inner tracking and organization system for your life in general. One of the items in your mental load is inventory. It's the physical things you own. Every item in your living space, no matter how small and insignificant, contributes at least a teeny tiny bit to your mental load. It's something you either have to put away when you're done using it or stress about not putting away. It's something you have to keep track of. You have to remember where it is. Where does it go? Where did I put it last time I used it? In some cases, it might be something that requires maintenance. Maybe it needs the oil changed every now and then, or it needs a battery, or you have to charge it when you're done with it. All of this contributes to mental load. And any individual item probably doesn't contribute that much, but when you own thousands of things, and most of us do, like even if you're not a wealthy person, you probably own thousands of possessions. If you really break it down to small little things, the cumulative effect of all of this on your brain, on your mood, on your focus, and on your concentration, it's high. Now, I'm not a minimalist, okay? I don't necessarily believe that people should restrict themselves to owning the absolute bare minimum number of possessions needed to stay functional. I myself have more than the minimum amount of a few things, watches and fragrances being my two main weaknesses, I guess I would say. But I do believe in making sure that things serve their purpose. And if the purpose of the majority of your possessions is to bring joy or excitement into your life, if you have a collection that has become more of a stressor than a source of joy or pleasure, that collection is not serving its purpose in your life. It's not doing the thing that it is there to do. And you should consider reducing it. The third thing you can do to improve your environment and improve your mental health as a result is to lighten up. And I'm kind of trying to be funny here, but I mean that literally. Darker spaces correlate with darker moods. We're very human beings are complicated, but we're also really simple at the same time in this weird way. And I know it seems absurdly silly that a species of animals that can create rocket ships can also get sad because it's too dark, but that's who we are. Like, our brains really do work that way. And the amount of light in your living space does in fact have an impact on your mood. Simplest way to change that up is to think about like lamps, overhead lights, the intensity of bulbs you use. Just like some people's houses just don't have enough lights in them. So you might have to invest in extra light sources. Keeping curtains open, keeping blinds open can be a big game changer for the amount of light in a room. Even the paint color is something worth thinking about. Like if you are a person who struggles with depression and you live in a place with a lot of probably not too many people have like a black room in their house, but dark blues, dark greens, stuff like that, they do have an effect on your mood. This is demonstrated through science time and time again. They do tend to bring our mood down. So even thinking about like repainting rooms of your home that you spend a lot of time in is worth thinking about. Anything that lightens up your living space is going to create a corresponding boost in your average mood. The fourth thing you can do to improve your mental health by improving your living environment is to fix things. I am probably not blowing your mind with that idea. I know it seems really simple, but being surrounded by broken things can make us feel like we are broken things because we tend to assume that we belong in the environments that we end up in. Again, think about the study I mentioned earlier in this video with the wobbly chair and the celebrity couples. Being in a physically unstable location made people project negative relationship consequences into the future. That's not just about relationships, that's about everything. Replace burnt out light bulbs, tighten that wobbly chair leg, use the WD-40 on the squeaky door. Being in a place where things work has a really strong positive impact on your mood. Having a living space that feels properly operational can help your mind feel properly operational. Again, remember, living space and mental health, this is a bi-directional relationship. They each influence one another. The fifth thing you can do to improve your mental health by improving your living space is to create space. I know that your ability to do this may be limited depending on the parameters of your living space, but when we have a lot of stuff that's all kind of like pushing in on us, it can actually create feelings of anxiety and claustrophobia. If it is physically somewhat challenging to navigate through your home. Like if you have to actually consciously use visual spatial skills to get from one room to the next to avoid bumping into things or like getting trapped between furniture, it's not good for you. It is going to have an impact on your mental health. If you can rearrange things, especially bigger pieces of furniture, so that navigating your space does not feel like a chore, it can have positive impacts on your mood, positive impacts on your energy and executive functioning. Everything that takes conscious effort from you drains your mental energy a little bit. And so if you have to really pay attention when you're moving around through your home to like not trip over things or not step on things, that's energy that could probably be spent on something more important to you. So think about rearranging, remodeling, just to make your living space, for lack of a better term, flow better for you. And the last one, but this one's really critical, do not skip this one, remove triggers. If you have things around you in your living space that have a lot of baggage associated with them, maybe they're associated with trauma or grief or anything that like when you hear it or see it or smell it, whatever the sensory stimuli that it invokes, it brings your mood down. Why do we have that thing out? Why are we doing that to ourselves? That's not beneficial. I am generally of the opinion, I probably say this in 25% of the content I make, life is hard enough if we just take it as is. I don't believe we need to do anything to artificially inflate the difficulty of making it through all the crap that we have to make it through. So having things in your living environment, whether that's photos or like even just think about like what's the lock screen on your phone. It should all be either positive or neutral. That should be the goal. There's no reason to keep something out and visible or just generally in your environment that has a negative impact on your mood. There's no benefit to this. Whether that means you throw stuff out or just like put stuff into storage for a while, don't torture yourself. Don't be a martyr. It doesn't help you. So I hope these 6 ideas feel actionable to you. I know this is a big concept, a big topic. Some of these would take a lot of work, some would take very little. I hope you consider applying at least one of my ideas today and taking some action steps in making your living space a place where you actually want to live. Because you spend a lot of time there. And if it's miserable, it's going to be really difficult for you to be happy or content with your life. So just think about it. I'll see you next time. Take care.